Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah and today I wanted to do a little bit of resin crafting. If you've seen any of my videos or my Skillshare course where I use resin to create my alcohol ink art or maybe floral pendants and jewelry, you will have seen me use art resin. Art resin has been really great for me so far. I have no issues with it. But I've always been interested to try some other resins just out of curiosity. Found one on Amazon that had pretty good reviews, and it was the same as our resin where it had the less harmful chemicals, so it's safe to use at home. I'm just gonna open the box that I got from Amazon with the resin, and it was 25 US dollars. So this is the resin that I got. It's by Art and Glow. This is the casting. It says casting and coating resin. So casting would be in a mold, coating would be on top of artwork. So I want to see if this actually does do well as a casting resin.
So I'm going to start with art resin and then show you the Art and Glow. And the reason why they're in an almond milk bottle and a Coke bottle is because I mixed up the caps and then it hardened and it was impossible to take the caps off. So I started fresh in new bottles, and that's why it's like that. So I'm going to just show you what the end result looks like once it's mixed. You can see this one is after mixing for about 4 minutes, and it has lots of bubbles, but this is not uncommon. So now I'm going to mix the Art and Glow. I did notice that the resiner was thinner than the the resin was thinner than the art resin. So the thickness or the heaviness of the liquids is a little bit different than the art resin. And you can see this is the Art and Glow. It's almost the same. So I'm gonna mix in some glitter. This is a hollow glitter and it is a polyester glitter, which I think is slightly higher quality than regular craft glitter, and I think it's quite a bit finer, so it gives a nicer look. So you can see when I have it on the popsicle stick, you can see some of the colors of the hollow, which looks really pretty. When I did it with the art resin, I put in less glitter, and I realized as well when I was putting the resin into the mold that using this container to pour it in is not the best idea. So when I moved on to Art and Glow, I swapped it for a what do you call it? Not a needle, but a whatever it's called, so that I could just squeeze it into the mold instead of pouring it clumsily. So there was a lot less cleanup when I did it this way. Also, I made sure to fill it up so that it wasn't overfull because I wanted to have a nice clean flat back and not have to sand too much. So I'm making the pens now, but I cut off the top of the frame. I'm just pouring art resin into the mold. I realized I poured too much though because I wanted to do half glitter and half black ink. And now I'm just pouring the Art and Glow, and clearly can't keep my hand steady because it was pouring all over the place. And then I just threw whatever was left into my larger mold. That would be the ink holder and the pen holder. Lastly, I am doing my clear coasters with florals. So again, starting with art resin and just filling it almost like halfway because I'm going to be doing 2 layers. That way that the florals will float to the top, and then I will put a second layer so that they're kind of in the center of the coaster. So I have some leaves actually from last fall. That's why they're that beautiful red color. Usually when you put organics or florals into resin, you do want to coat them with a clear coating so that it seals in all of the moisture and prevents air bubbles. But for this, I just wanted to put it in as is and see how it goes since it was just a test. But I do have a Skillshare video on floral resin pendants that goes over that a little bit. So I'm doing the exact same thing with the Art and Glow, just pouring it about halfway. This time I'm using baby's breath to fill the mold, and again with these I would have coated them so that it would have been sealed in and hopefully prevented some bubbles.
Hey everyone, so it's been a couple days since I poured the first pour. Halfway through I did put a second pour in for another layer on the coasters and the pens, so they are fully cured now. I'm going to demold them and show you what they turned out like, and this is the most exciting part of the process. So I'll let you know what I think about the new resin I'm trying versus the old resin and see how it all went.
Okay, so this is my favorite part of the whole process. And I think first I'm going to show you these letters because I couldn't wait and had to demold them when I wasn't on camera. So the W and C are from Art Resin, and the M and the heart are from Art and Glow. As you can see, the W from Art Resin is quite flexible. I could bend it and move it around. It was very soft. Also, I'm just pointing out here that the hollow glitter does kind of float to the bottom, so it looks more clear at the top. This is the Art and Glow, the M, which is very similar to the W, but I also had added more hollow glitter for the Art and Glow, and I like the way it looked better. But you can tell like this resin is much harder. I couldn't bend these letters at all. It's kind of more like a acrylic or hard plastic. So moving on to the coasters, the left one is the art resin. That's the one I am pulling out of the mold right now. You can see there's lots of bubbles. This is something that I always struggle with when I work with organics, is getting rid of the bubbles. There's a lot, especially in the center there. And it's really hard to torch them in this red mold because it's so dark that it's hard to actually see the bubbles when you pour the resin in. It actually looks like there aren't any. So I did take a torch and a straw just to try and blow them out, but again, I had no idea which ones I was blowing out. So I think because this is quite a bit thicker that it's a little bit harder to bend. So it was still soft, but not very flexible. This is the Art and Glow, and it also has bubbles. It's a little bit weird because these bubbles seemed more evenly distributed than the art resin ones, and I don't know if that's just due to the florals being more scattered and a bit smaller in the Art and Glow one as opposed to the art resin one. This one is definitely a lot harder. I can't feel any softness or flexibility at all when I try and bend it. When I compare the two, the art resin one is a little bit yellower, but that could be because my art resin is older than the Art and Glow. I have kept it in a dark place, in a cool dark place, but maybe that made it yellow, whereas the Art and Glow is just a fresh bottle that I just opened for this video. So that's the only thing I can think of. Next, I'm going to demold the calligraphy nib holders. So this mold is not the greatest. I got it off eBay. It just is like two halves they put together, which is why I had to put so many clamps around it. And you can see that it still seeps out the sides. So I'd like to make my own mold eventually. And this is the art resin version. It is really flexible, and I think it's because there's less resin at the bottom. I did add alcohol ink and glitter to that one to make it more of like that milky white, as opposed to the Art and Glow where I forgot to do that and it's just straight glitter. But this one is way harder. I did also add a nib at the top, which I'll show you. But some of the resin seeped out of the bottom from the crappy mold, so that's why it didn't fill up. So it's not going to be that usable because it's just not going to be sturdy enough. So I'll have to try that again. But as you can see when I bend this, like you can bend it a little bit, but it took a lot of effort to try and bend it. And that was the whole reason why I wanted to try this new resin, because I wanted to try and make these pens for my pop can pens. And I think the Art and Glow would be my preferred resin for these pens because it is quite a bit harder. But I do think I need to find a better mold. But anyways, I will have to do a little bit more research on these and try and get better, and I'll show you the process once I figure it out. So this is the leftover resin mold, and I basically just poured whatever was left from all of the resins, and I suggest that you have a mold to do this because you do sometimes end up with resin, so instead of wasting it, it's good to use in something. I didn't fill it up all the way because I didn't want to use more resin. It was just for a test. This is pretty sturdy, and obviously it wasn't level because you can see like it's up higher on one side than on the other. And I think it looks really cool though when I flip it over and you can see the hollow glitter. So I think it would be really cool if it was just hollow glitter for an ink holder.
Okay, so my final thoughts on the different resins. I have always used art resin and I really enjoy it. I've used it to cover my alcohol ink pieces and it's been great, but I have noticed when I tried using it in molds that it was a bit too soft. So I do like the Art and Glow for this reason. It was harder, and I think I could tell when I was pouring this resin versus the art resin that the hardener was thicker actually than the art resin hardener, but the resin itself from Art and Glow was much more liquidy. So the resin and the hardener did have different velocities, I guess that's the right word, than art resin. So yeah, I really liked the new resin. I also didn't have like a problem with the smells, like chemical smells, same as art resin. They're both very easy to use at home, and they're both very easy to mix and easy to stir. Pretty much the same for getting rid of bubbles, so I'd say they're very comparable. I just think that the Art and Glow was a little bit of a harder resin. And price-wise, I think it's probably comparable as well. Anyways, it's good to try different new products. So if you've tried a resin that you really enjoyed, I'd love to hear about it. So leave me a comment below and tell me which one is your favorite and why. And maybe I can try it out. I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know, and I hope to see you next time.